show you.
You have such sights to show.
I believe we're live now.
Not here.
Well, you said you didn't want anybody to watch.
Yeah, but that's the general vibe I go for every time on the show, so,
No way.
What? Wait, what?
What's up?
What are we even doing here? The best title I've seen of any of your stuff so far.
Oh, you're reading my description?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I put weird shit in all of them.
Yes, I know. Who the hell are those guys?
Which
Who the hell are
guys?
you?
Oh, I don't fucking know. I popped in here and now this shit's happening. What do
I
you
don't
want?
fucking know what's going on. But I can say,
I just clicked random links. Whoa. Okay, that's cool.
you want more?
Oh my god.
And then my personal favorite, if it works. There it is.
Wow. And what form of sorcery makes that happen?
Macintosh. It's a Mac thing.
Gotcha. That's why none of us know what he's doing. Yeah, I don't have the magic.
Yeah, it's supposed to give me a thumbs up, but it's not working. Oh, there it is.
Does this work?
No, and this does nothing either. So I've tried this, nothing. Nope, nothing. Even metric, nothing.
Oh, wow. Multiplication doesn't work.
Nico Bear Power. Okay. It's short of Japanese.
We're barely 2 minutes in. I'm already confused what's going on.
Well, welcome to Sarrow's Fuckfest.
It's like I had no expectations, yet I'm still confused.
Well, what's up? I wrapped up my heroic campaign on Friday night. We had our last session. I'm going to let Saxius talk about it instead of me because I hate self-promotion, but Saxius is like invested way more than I was in this campaign. So
everyone. All right. So it was basically with the big showdown. What the big evil genius of the two arcs had been revealed. Being Dr. Gargantuan, one of the published villains from Heroic that can be found from Bear's Patreon, which is definitely worth going and checking out for. It's just $5. You can find it, $10, and you'll have the full archives. But I digress. He is not an enemy to just take lightly. He is highly intelligent. He will hit you harder than a freight train, and that's assuming that he engages. Again, he fights with his mind above everything else. He had been cloning one of the other player character before the player had to drop out. It's a mini Superman, effectively, from what we like for a brief description. So the players bumbling their way through most of the events are now standing in front of a 12-foot tall Hulk-sized mecha genius. His small entourage of cloned superpowered creatures enhanced with a number of various genetical modifications. And they had to take this on, and we got to witness as some of the players realized that that's the one. That is Dr. Gargantuan, and he fine.
Oh, my apologies.
No, I just took him down. Just much happier to see your faces.
And basically, they had to face off against him and his minions. The players weren't really. The majority of the players weren't really set for what they had to do, because they were fighting against opponents who had a lot of damage reductions. They were soaking up their normal damages, which meant that they had to do either all-out attacks or special moves or the likes, all which could be found within the rules, which not everyone had read, but there was one or two who had, and they were going all in.
There was one. Nerd read the rules. The others were just like, what do I do now? 14 sessions.
Yeah. But it was a show where things definitely got up and dangerous. Gargantuan eliminated possibly the biggest threat from the player's side by introducing the equivalent of her, Nebula being the biggest threat, given that she can just...
Well, keep going.
Yeah,
keep going.
Give it up, Sax. No, they're too busy being 12-year-olds. Don't worry.
Yeah, fine.
It's all good.
The end
back to
the end being that they saved the day, and one of the characters, or one of the heroes, basically had to sort of fly off into space to get rid of the more dangerous enemy. And that's where it was all left. Thankfully, no major civilians were harmed, as far as we know. And although the players thought they were fighting Dr. Gargantuan, it was a plot twist. Aha! It was a clone all along. And a bear managed to basically steal one of the players' karma pools, which is effectively luck that you accumulate over time, because the player panicked and basically went, I'm just going to go full on, everything. And killed, or believed that he killed someone.
So thank you. I appreciate that, Sax. But for me, it's the players not learning rules thing that gets up my ass. Like that's like in D&D when players don't know what their fucking spells do.
I am.
Or how their abilities.
14 sessions in, I agree. That is, you are out of excuses. You're beginning, sure. You're 2 or 3 sessions in, you're still reading the rules, getting comfortable with it. I know that there was a number of minor alterations for the rules that we went along, but the core rules are still there. There was just an expansion that was given out later on. That's
just a topic, since we all role play. I think all of us GM. Do you GM, Sarah?
Yeah.
Yeah. Does it not get up your ass when the players don't bother learning the rules?
Yes. Extensively.
How do you handle it? What do you do?
I use them against them. I mean, like if they'd make a roll, okay, I needed you to give me a athletics check, and they roll a d12. Okay, that's what you want to roll. Go for it.
Wow.
Nice.
So you pretty much like just fuck them. You make your own bet, bitch.
Yeah, pretty much.
Your target number is 23. I roll a d12 plus 4. All right, you fail.
Every time.
My real life group, I've got one player. We are 4 years in. He doesn't own the D&D books first and foremost. He hasn't read the free versions that are online, and he only plays the fighter because it's the most rules light thing that he can play as. Still looks around when I say, all right, you need to roll a d10. He still looks, which one's a d10? It's like, cool. I feed back the engagement I get from the players. If you give me that kind of energy, cool. I'm not really going to invest into it. So as long as I've got the majority of the group doing it, great, I can move along. I'm not going to let the individual drag down the rest of the game. But if I'm finding that it's to the detriment that we're having to slow down the game, then they need to be taken aside and say, right, you now need to step it up, because this is now moving into being a game that is not at your caliber. I have asked another player to step aside because what they wanted to play in and what the group was playing at was at 2 very different levels, to the point of where their character had a life expectancy of 1.5 session. And I just went, listen, you're rolling through characters quicker than anything else. You've decided not to play at the level that the rest of the group has. We have all tried to help you. This is not fun for us, that you are just a meat shield, that we are Well, it's getting to the point where we're almost asking, why don't we just throw your character in there and just trigger the first trap, because you'll just keep on coming back with more. It's like at that point, it's breaking the immersion and the fun that we're going for. But it's again, it's also one of the reasons for why personally I sit down. I've made a point to sit down with the players that are joining my games, and I talk to them. I have an interview with them, nothing formal, just sitting down, going, "Here's what my gaming, my DMing style is like." I am going to be absolutely upfront that, yes, I have the whole bravado and the spiel of like I am out there to kill your character. I'm not going to do it in a antagonistic way. I'm going to play within the rules. I'm going to play the enemies. If they're clever, I'm going to play them cleverly, and they're going to go for you. Minor enemies like goblins and the like, they're not going to be hyper intelligent and use tactics. I'm going to play them according to how I interpret that. But you are coming into a game where I am running the rules against you, and you have to play within the rules and have your reasoning for why certain things should work or not. If you can't do that, then I am not the DM for you, and you being in my games is going to be more painful for you. Ergo, if the player at that stage is going like, "Oh no, I'll be fine. Oh, I can do it," and I do my thing, and they're sitting and complaining to me, it's like, well, no, I'm not taking that. I was upfront with you. If you don't have the insight to turn around and say like, "Okay, this is not my style. Cool, I should have stepped aside," then I will ask you to leave, because I've got limited time. I've got probably 3 or 4 other people whose time is quite valuable, and if you're wasting their time, you're wasting everyone's time. Go on, Brian.
So, follow-up question to all of that, not just specifically what you were saying. What happens when you encounter a player that is the true definition of a rules lawyer, that they do know the rules backwards and forwards, and challenge what you have come up with when it's been a homebrew rule at your table? By that argument, you're insisting that they know the rules, and they do, but your definition of the rule is different than what is in the book.
Okay, so what I do is that if it's a homebrew that I've had an ongoing thing with, I normally have a document that sort of goes, "Here's how I interpret these things." Everyone's given that. Happy days, we start on the same page. If it's something where it's coming in that I have an interpretation that others disagree with, we're having a quick talk. If it is being dragged out, I will say, "Here's my interpretation. We will review this after session, as so that we don't slow it down, and we can proceed from there." But at the very least, I'm making it clear what the interpretation is at this point. And if we move forward, that is being changed, we're doing so at a group level because everyone's being affected. If it's to the point of where they are grinding down the game and stopping people from having fun, well, now we're at a problem where it's not the rules that's the problem. It's the player that's insisting that we have to abide by their interpretation. And that's a different problem in my eyes, if that's making sense.
Sarah was disassociating with reality while you were talking. Very interesting. Blinking out. It's cool.
No, it's just, wow. Can you imagine like making a rule in the moment and then, figuring out after the game so that you can keep the momentum of the game going, instead of spending 3 hours discussing the fucking rules.
Well, remember our conversation before the stream about how people want to seem clever? That person, that's exactly what that is. The person Brian described, or that situation, that is someone wanting to be clever. Well, your homebrew rule is wrong, and here's why.
Or just, half the table was spicy, either way.
Well, you've had a pretty spicy table from what you've said in the past, so, muy caliente.
Unfortunately.
What about you, Brian? How do you handle it?
For many years, I have always approached the system or the game, any game, whichever one I'm running, whichever system I'm running, as I am the DM, I am the GM, whatever. If I make a rule that states that a 10-inch schlong just grew out of your forehead, then a 10-inch schlong just grew out of your forehead. No saves, no ifs, ands, or buts. That's what happened. If you don't like it, you don't have to play at my table. That said, and I do say this in session 0 of every game, I say that pretty much word for word. That said, however, I never in my entire history of playing the game have ever had anybody grow a 10-inch schlong out of their forehead. 9-inch maybe, but not 10. No. But that's typically how I handle it at my table is, listen, guys, I am here to arbitrate. I'm here to ensure that the game flows. Even I don't know every single rule that's in every single supplement book that's out there. It's just not possible. Bear is in a slightly unique situation when he's running something like Heroic because, he wrote the fucking book. That's a little bit different. But when I'm taking on, a game, I don't necessarily know every single rule. So I am going to have to be open, and I think DMs should be open to it. It kind of falls back to the rules is written, rules is interpreted, and the rule of cool. There are just certain situations where all of that can fit into a single session, all of it. You got to be consistent. And I think that's the key, is that you have to be consistent with the rule set that's presented.
Yeah. Well, no, I definitely agree. And it's a part of the social contract when you are in these games is that you give so the trust for DM to do these things and for making some of these rules. Doesn't mean that you can't challenge it, but be constructive about it, because at the end of the day, everyone's here to have fun.
Right.
Yeah. At the moment, I'll give an example with my real life group. I'm having them roll on the monsters charts. Yeah. You've got
This fucking cat is so relaxed right now. He's stretched out completely. There he's done. Okay, bye.
He wanted you to paint him like one of your French girls.
Yeah, exactly. Artzilla. But no, guys, look. This is a conversation GMs have been having for decades. At what point does the rubber meet the road, right? At what point do you go, you know what? I'd rather have one player who's engaged than 4 who are fucking around. At what point do you say, you know what? Get out. At what point do you do that? At what point do you say, get the fuck out of my game? I've had to do it twice in my life where I've had to kick someone out of the game. And just be like, you're not welcome back. Do not come back. Stay away.
Hence why Gur's not here today.
What?
Hence why Gur isn't here today.
I've never kicked him out of a game, thank you. I think you would be fired up on more on that list if you played any of my games than he would be. Because he does the one thing that I don't think you would do. He tries. Where I think you would just see how much chaos you could sow.
I resemble that remark. Thank you very much.
Hey, Slan, what's up, man?
It boils down to the individual and down to the game master or judge at that point. Are you feeling that there's a conflict, that there's a problem from a player that is causing not just for the group but also for you to not have fun? And if that's the case, then that needs to be addressed, because I'm sure we've all been in these situations where we're in a game and we're just going like, why am I here? And you just can't justify why you are participating in this thing now. This hobby that's meant to be bringing you either some form of like escapism or a brief moment of respite. At that point, there is a deeper problem that's ongoing, and then that needs to either be addressed, or you need to turn around and say, you know what, something here is not working, and I need to step away. Sorry, yeah.
You're starting to hit on something that feels like we're now transitioning between comparing how games used to be played and how modern games are being played now.
Right. Expand.
Like the whole, you know, real life has to be part of your games, you know, that whole modern 5e mentality that you see on every fucking person's YouTube channel about 5e. And
What's it? 5e is more of a lifestyle rather than a hobby.
yeah, and how, you know, it's got to be like sanitized. You've got to be considerate of your other players. It's the DM's job to make them feel part of the table and make sure their characters get their moments. And
Yeah, but so I agree to quite a few of those things, but that's a two-way street.
Mm.
You come to my table, I feed off your positive energy, your engagement, that feeds me. Come in with a character. I mean, again, I'm going to take my real life group. I encourage people to making backstories. They don't have to. I encourage them. It's like, do it. It'll be fun. One of them's come up with the whole thing of like, we're having a Pirates of the Caribbean themed Caribbean pirate swashbuckling setup, and I'm rechanging the rules so that it is more akin to like Cyberpunk or The Witcher, system, but in a way that they understand it. Great. One of them's coming in and going like, pirates killed my family. I have lost my parents. My father role model has been hunted down by pirates. I have escaped. I am now taking on, the form of vengeance against those who would break the law to do this and to, hunt down and terrorize the innocent. So he's come in with all these things, which I am absolutely going to be using because that means that he's now having an investment into the game that we've made. One of the other players have just straight up gone, I don't know. I'm just here. Sorry, what's... Oh, Jesus Christ, you two. And another one has basically just gone like, I'm just here because I want a new life. I'm like, that's it, cool. That's the effort you put in. Fine, there's not going to be anything from that. You're just going to deal with it in the moment. I can deal with that. There is still going to be other setups. I mean, one of my other games, one of the players made a backstory all about the old world when they've now traveled to the Americas, and the game was going to be based in the Americas. And he was arguing like, but I've got all these unfinished things for my backstory. I went, I'm not dealing with this. Your character's backstory is in the old world. We're not going to the old world. You want your character to resolve this? You do this off screen, not a part of the game. I made it quite clear. We're playing in the Americas. You're not going back. So there you go. You've come with these concepts. I have not said no to you, but I've told you this is where we're playing. So that's, again, is a two-way thing. But I'm also of the mentality that it's okay for game masters, for judges to turn around and say, no. It's okay to say that. You have a frame.
There is no secret cow level.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. You can't. If the game master has a pre-made setting or a pre-made, square that everything's going to be oriented around, you have to work within those parameters. You can't come with a hexagon and go, "Here's what I'm working with." And it's like, no.
That was one of the complaints that I always had about like pre-made adventures, for example. And I'll use the most famous one from 5th edition, and that's Fandelver. You've got a group of players that want to go to Fandelver, but then you've got one character or one player that decides, you know what, I want to go all the way over to Karatur before we go into the Raiders' castle. Well, no, that's like a 14-day journey east. We're not going to Karatur for you.
Well, that's
I have to go get my ancestor's sword.
No, it's just where you turn around. It's like, yeah, but you've got, so out of a group of 5, 4 is saying we're going here. You're saying going there. What are you doing? It's like, but I want to go. Cool. Let me take your character.
Yeah.
Give me your character now. It's like, what do you mean? Like, you are splitting the party, which means you are not a part of the game. So I'm now, if I have to give you a character that is interested in doing this, then that's the case. It's like, but now you're saying with my agency, okay, do you know what agency you have? You have the choice of agreeing to the parameters and that the group, again, I operate by the whole thing of the group mentality, as in the player mentality of where you are going is going to be the direction of the story and of the game, not the individual. Ergo, if you're going to have one that goes like, I want to do this, and I now want to have personal sessions, no, get out. Your agency is go with the flow or get out the front door. You know where it is. But as again, I mean, okay, in my meager, 20-something years of gaming, I think it's only like 5 people I've told to get out. Where I've just simply said, that's it. What you want is not conducive to what I'm running. Or, I mean, in some cases, I've just had cheaters. I've gone, no, locked their character sheet and said, you're explaining this to me now. When they try to get hostile with me, I just go, nope, block, kick, move on, put up the poster for the next person to come in.
See, I think I made it very clear when I had 2 players who just weren't gelling with the rest and me and everything else. I just put them up against Cthulhu. They were 3rd level players. And this is 3rd edition Cthulhu. So they they got the hint. I was sick of their shit.
I mean, if I don't gel with a player, like, and I do try to get along, because I do try to at least establish some form of bond, or some form of, like, at least decent friendship, I mean, relationship with the people I'm running for. But if that doesn't get established, then I've got no incentive to really have them there. And I do try to establish that. So if it's just a case of, like, I don't gel with them, it's like, okay, cool. Listen, I'm not gelling with you. I can't hide that. It's not going to be fun because I might get antagonistic towards you, and there's no reason for it to be moving in towards that. And I don't want to ruin your experience. I'd rather say there is something, like, I'm just not gelling. So it's better that we just part ways. Okay, but that's using your example for that.
Yeah.
But then, yeah.
Australians are inherently more chaotic. So.
Sorry, was that?
I said Australians, though, are more inherently chaotic. So,
I don't know that Australians are more inherently chaotic than anyone else. I think Australians think they're more chaotic than anyone else. But, I mean, everybody's chaotic to some degree or another, right? Every culture. But I think Zach's point about, if I'm going to be playing make-believe with you, I better like you. If I don't like you, then why are you here? Why are you in my world? Why are you in my life? Go away. Yeah. That's just what it has to be, I think. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm no elitist.
No, but, like, I do agree. Like, again, we try to put in the effort. Great. If it doesn't feel like it's being worked, okay, cool. And that you can't force this kind of, if you want to call it chemistry. That's something like it either. Yes, Seraphis, get it out of your system now. It's not something that can really be forced. Like, either it develops or it doesn't, and then from there it's just happy days.
I figured out what that is for Sarah. That is the equivalent of this. That's what I do. That he just goes perfect. Thank you. So what are we talking about, guys?
Apparently RPG stuff.
Oh, was that a mistake? Should we talk about something else?
I mean, that's up to you guys. This is very water cooler. If you have a topic, by all means.
What's up, everyone? Clouds. Moving on.
Okay.
Wonderful.
Brian, what'd you do to your mustache? What's that? Is that a filter?
It's a cardboard cutout.
Okay. His light is so dark, it's hard to see anything.
It's from the back of a pizza box.
Yeah, see, the thing, Rivers, I agree with you on that, but my friends, that's cute. I like it. My friends that play in my house know better than to bring someone I don't like into my house. You know what I mean? So I don't have that problem. But I also don't role play with family, so I never have to worry about that family thing either. And a lot of people like they play with their spouse or they play with their kids. You get a different role. I don't have that, so I'm okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sarah, my God, man, I feel like you're not happy. What's wrong?
oh no, I've got like a semi-migraine, so that's
Why
the
are
only
you
reason
doing
why.
this then?
You shouldn't be in
Because
front of the, you shouldn't be in front of the monitor. You should be getting either a paracetamol and some water, and ideally going and lying down in somewhere dark, like the cave that you have.
well, you see, I've been kind of looking forward to this all day because it's my hour or so that I get where the kids are not like
Kids.
destroying the house and costing me money. So yeah.
This
There's
is
a
How
his
old are
Dexter.
they? This is
It's just-
Dexter hour.
Yeah.
What does that mean?
It's where he
It's the
gets to
hour
become
that-
himself.
I don't get the reference. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And nothing further shall be elaborated upon. All right.
Stay classy, Australia.
Either way, I'm trying to think though.
Hold on, I'll have a look. Let's see if I've got any tags for the ticker thing. That might be
What?
uh,
Oh,
Turks.
this is what this is. This is chaos personified.
No, it's just he's
He
His
says
choice
no,
of
no,
words.
the ticker tags
Oh,
for the ticker.
Okay, tags. I heard Turks. I was like, what? Why are we involving Turkey now? What's going on?
I mean, the
I-
ancient
I-
architecture is very lovely, but
Cappadocia.
I'm just confused. Stumble into a world I know nothing of, and I'm even just like, what's happening? You
I
with the
miss the
guidance.
days when Europeans could just be racist to each other. You remember those days when Europeans weren't all considered one people? Like back in
No.
the 70s, you could watch like Faulty Towers and they'd be making jokes about Italians and Greeks. People were like, oh. Now it's like Italians and Greeks are just Europeans now. It's like, no, they're not. Everybody's very different. It's one of these things that drove me nuts. There used to be this restaurant would go to breakfast in Vancouver, and they had my buddy Jeff would always order the European smoked sausage, and I'm like, what the fuck does that mean? European smoked sausage. Is that like, come on down to Big L's European Emporium? I got lots of stuff from Europe over here. I got bidets. You want bidets? I got bidets. Look at this. It's a sausage. It's from Europe. Oh, like, I don't get this idea that Europe is one monoculture all of a sudden. Fucking freaks me out.
It's the beauty of the EU just unifying us, breaking down borders, and anything that would make us stand against each other.
Well, you live in the UK, so you're not in the EU anymore. So.
Well, I get to visit when we go back to Denmark.
Just slightly off from that.
Yeah.
I hate that Australian restaurant chain in the US.
Oh,
Outback Steakhouse.
Yes, that.
Australian steakhouse with the bloomin' onion.
And everything else that isn't Australian.
Yeah, pretty much. Imagine what happens when Italians go to Olive Garden. We have St. Patrick's Day coming up, right?
Mhm.
Pretty soon. And all my friends are like, well, you're part Irish. Why don't you celebrate St. Patrick's Day? I said, well, because I'm really not a fan of a day that says to be Irish, you wear green, which is Catholic, get drunk, kiss random strangers, vomit in the street, and get into fistfights. That's the cultural view of the Irish right there in a nutshell. That's what you think the Irish are. Imagine if they had Italian Day and everybody went around extorting money out of people and breaking legs and doing drive-by hits and stuff. Like, it'd be like, no, unacceptable. But we can do this to the Irish because fuck them, they're the Irish. It's just like, Jesus Christ, bye.
Hundreds of years of abuse, if not more.
Hey, Freud said the Irish defy psychoanalysis, and the reason why is because any other group of people that was dealing with that much depression would be self-exiting at alarming numbers according to his view of psychology. But the Irish just go, well, what you gonna do, Paul? Just move on with their day. So that's good, you know.
That's fair enough. I suppose.
Listen, do you guys want to fucking make a better topic? Make a better topic. I'm doing my best here. Okay,
You're doing
I got
great.
Stonewall Jackson below me doing this Stonewall Jackson routine. I got Giddy Go Lightly over here, which actually is a great Bond girl name, Giddy Go Lightly. And then I've got Saxy's trying to have a rational conversation. Fool.
I'm just trying to be the anchor back to reality, which, given who I am, might not be the best choice of people. Given that some of the rants I go on about, like, here's what you can do, here's how you can play a good guy and be an absolute sociopath, but you're good because you worship a good god.
You know, I did like that idea of the pirate game, though, that you're running. That sounds cool.
Would you like me to expand upon it?
No, it depends. Like, how are you coding your pirates?
What do you mean coding?
Like, are you drawing inspiration from like movies like Pirates of the Caribbean, or are you actually like taking sources from, you know, real world
Real
books?
life.
Yeah, real life.
All right. So a little bit of real life, but the agreement that I have with the group is that we're taking the Pirates of the Caribbean like theme of swashbuckling. So it's definitely meant to be a lot more action packed. You being able to like do a little bit more stunt defying events, with a lot of inspiration of, you know, the real life of, you know, there are trade, you know, groups that are in the area that wants to invest into the local, you know, productions and infrastructure. You've got various kingdoms who are basically being there like, we need law and order because this is a part of the wider problem or wider conflict that's going on, because trade back in those days was seen as a form of warfare by denying enemies resources and having the enemies buy your resources, ergo draining them of, you know, currency. So that's the sort of thing I want to go for. But given that we're doing 5e and we're going to be doing very high fantasy, there's going to be a whole bunch of other things involved in with that, such as, you know, I've taken the elves and basically made them the British Navy. You know, they are, you know, well, I call it for the Ulthians because I've just stolen it from Warhammer Fantasy, but that's, you know, they are there to, you know, keep the peace. They're there to ensure that, you know, law and order is being done and that you're not doing heinous acts while you're around there. Just trying to find what the name of this the GIF. Do you know what the GIF are? GIFF?
Oh
Yeah,
yeah, the
right.
hippo people.
The hippo people, exactly. So I've got the GIF who are also in the region, but they're there because they're explorers. You know, they're like, we're here to, you know, find and understand this lost civilization, and, you know, they're very, you know, highly educated individuals who want to go out and, you know, explore, document, and, you know, generally research, as, you know, they are very curious. And I've opened up all the books so that the players can say, like, okay, we're not playing just by the player's handbook. We're now going in and we're doing like very high fantasy. So we've got, you know, Kenkus and the like. So that's what I'm doing, and I'm drawing from inspiration from, you know, real life. Plus, I had to explain to the players what kind of ships that they were going for, whether it was going to be a quick sleuth, it was going to be one of the more medium mercantile vessels, or one of the big Portuguese man-o'-wars that was being sent out. With the players basically going like, we're going to go for a mercantile ship because we want to be in the middle ground, which again makes sense. You know, specialized, but you're not penalized either. So that's what I'm doing for that. Mechanically, what I've changed around is I'm using the interlock system, not 1-for-1, but you D20, where they roll their usual attacks, and the enemy will then roll their attack or their defense in response. And then depending on how they go about it, with melee, if you are using finesse, you'll be using dexterity, as in ducking, dodging, jumping around, that sort of thing. Ranged attacks can only be dodged if you're using a dexterity roll so you would have to use your acrobatics to be jumping out of the way. Armor reduces damage, so light armor -2 points of damage, medium -4, heavy -8. But I've then justified that if you have heavy armor and you get thrown into water, the DC of you swimming increases in accordance. So most are not going to be having heavy armor, I would believe. And I am also reminding people that open sea is rough, because the waves do throw you around when you are on a ship like that.
Oh yeah.
And the players learned that by me immediately saying, "Okay, you're on there, great. Dexterity rolls," and the captain was yoinked off the ship immediately. They just left port, and he was already overboard and on his way to drown. The players were dying laughing because it was just funny. I'm not going to kill them with monsters. I'm just going to kill them with drowning. So that's what I'm doing for that, and I've got a few pirate factions that I want to introduce. I've currently got a rather chaotically evil Yonti group that are fractured variations of smaller pirate cabals that are pseudo-uniformed, but still very backstabby towards each other. I've got a I know I need a smuggler slash what are they called again? Oh geez, a smuggler slash exploratory group who basically goes out much like the conquistadors and basically go, "Hey, we found this wonderful thing. We shall bring it back, but we don't want to pay taxes or acknowledge it to be to any government. Ergo, we're smuggling it all back and selling it for very lucrative prices." And I've alluded to that there is a Mayan civilization out there that they may have to encounter. Yeah, you're right, Grumpy. Breaking news. I'm finding new ways to murder the characters.
Oh yeah, but you just got to expect that from you. So I mean,
Yeah, but as I said earlier in this stream, I tell the players what they're getting when they get into my game. It's their fault for showing up.
Yeah, I mean, I have no illusions. If I joined a game of yours, the shit I would decide to do with the choices I decide to make for my character, I'm pretty sure either I would last a long time or I'd be dead in the first session.
Well, given that one of my groups, again, I think you would get along with them swimmingly. We were doing Pathfinder. Given that they were utilizing the full powers of what you can do in Pathfinder, and that I was throwing them into situations where they were being mustard gas, lightning bolts, and the lights were being chucked at them. We had a ping pong competition where a warband of drow cast a fireball upon the players. They cast counterspell. The drow's sorcerer cast counterspell, and it just ping pong back and forth 4 times until the drow ran out of spellcasters that could cast counterspell, and they received it.
See, you need an artificer with a staff of greater dispel magic. That way, because it can work as counterspell as well. So that way, you've got 50 charges right there. Boom.
Yeah. But one of the artificers that I had basically got a bunch of wands and rods, put them together in a circular form so that it became a Gatling gun, and then made a rotary so that he could just have the thumb at the top to just like shoot them out all of the time. And they were trying to turn that into a Gatling gun at top of the hearse, well, not hearse, but like the wagon that they were driving.
I'm going to say tertiary.
Yeah.
That sounds a little bit too inefficient. My brain says that there's a better way they could have done that.
Oh god, yeah. But like this is like, again, I leave the players to be creative about these things. Sorry, Bear, I know this is
No, God, talk about D&D to your heart's full. I'm good.
But Pathfinder. It's not D&D.
Same fucking thing.
Or should we bring it over into like things like OSE, for example, which might be a bit more in Bear's wheelhouse? Because I think there's going to be
No,
some
it's,
fun.
no. Keep going. Talk about your thing. Don't worry about catering to me, guys. I'm good. I'm having 5 conversations while I'm doing this. I'm not bored. Talk your hearts out.
All right, sounds good.
Ryan, you've been doing a lot of 2024 D&D stuff. Have you been playing it or just reading it?
Mostly just reading it at this point. We haven't actually had a single session yet. Well, no. So what we did, we just got finished doing almost a year long Vecna campaign, and we took about a month and a half break from that, and then I started doing the white book version of the game, and like for ODD, the very first edition, and had them all roll up characters, and we played one session of that last weekend, I guess, was the first session. And I just kind of wanted to go back to some very basics.
Okay.
They all died within the first 10 minutes.
That's good.
Yeah. And how did you arrange their deaths?
So we played the very first module, Palace of the Vampire Queen. They made it into the first room. There was a chest. I opened the chest. Okay, let me see your character. Okay. So what's in the chest? You have no idea. You died. What? How did I die? You have no idea. You died. Next player goes in. Okay. You see a dead guy on the floor, and there's a chest. Well, I'm going to open the chest. Let me see your character. Well, why? What happened? Well, you died too. How did I die? You have no clue. You're dead. And I would take them into separate rooms to tell them this. And when they would, if they came back to the table and tried to warn the other players, you can't say anything. You're dead. I mean, ODD first edition is brutal. I mean, you start off at level 1 with like maybe 4 hit points if you're lucky.
Damn. I was thinking about like OD&D. I keep on believing like this is such a different mechanical system.
Yes, it is.
And right now, I've just got no interest in like going into that. Like I've learned enough systems to sort of go like, okay, it's wide enough for me to run most games. Not particularly eager in learning a new version of D&D.
No, it was something that was just fun. It was so in our Vecna campaign, and I mentioned this a couple of times, but in our Vecna campaign, Vecna basically got away with unmaking the universe, or the multiverse rather. And I went full meta with it, and he strips away all the mechanics of 5th edition, melts away everything that happened in 4th edition, deletes everything that took place in 3rd edition, 2nd edition, and takes it all the way back to the very first edition, in which all that was mentioned about Vecna was his hand and his eye. Mm-hmm. And that's where we started. And so now I'm going to systematically, like every 3 or 4 months or so, we're going to advance to the next edition, because I want my players to have the full experience of it.
What are you going to do when they find out they love 4th edition despite all the propaganda against it?
Yeah, I don't know. That'll be a challenge for me for sure.
See, and that's the thing. Like, not to get into edition warring and all that. I know a lot of people like 4th edition essentials because it turns it more into 3rd edition. But I like full 4th edition. I thought full 4th edition was a fine game. I mean, they made some wording choices that they fixed in 5th edition, which is, by the way, 4th edition essentials with a shiny coat of paint. And I think people were far too critical of it. People shat on it too much, and it was because of the MMO connection, right?
Yeah.
But there's an issue TSR had, which is this game right here. Marvel Saga Edition, which was a card-based game, right? No dice. And that came out in the late 90s when Magic was right? Late 90s, 98, 99, something like that. And people hated it because it used cards. So they're just trying to capitalize on Magic. No. You know, that fucking contrarian mentality that kicks into people. You know what I mean? Where they just refuse to accept anything new. So I think it's interesting. I want to see what happens when your players get to 4th edition and see if you can run it straight for them and if they actually enjoy it.
Yeah. I mean, I'll be honest, it's going to be an extreme challenge for me. I've never run 4th edition. Thankfully, I've got a bit of time, and I still have to collect the books for it, but at least 3 base core books. Because I don't even think I've got any 4th edition. Yeah, I don't think I've got any 4th edition books, but I've got everything, all the other books, but not anything from 4th.
You have the PDFs?
I can get them, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
Or I might just skip 4th edition altogether. No, there were some mechanics in 4th edition that I liked. Like I really did like the whole bloodied mechanic with monsters. That was nice. And I'm glad to see that they brought that into the 5.5 version. I mean, that's something that I always continued to use, though.
Oh, definitely. That and I think at least in the 5.5, from what I'm briefly reading in the DMG, that was bringing out the whole minion or mob ruling.
Yeah.
That I know it was kind of prevalent in 1st edition, 2nd edition, dropped out of 3rd edition, came back quite strongly in 4th, because again, it just made the combat like you could have very epic scale thing, and it just makes sense. You can do these things. Having mooks, again, I quite like that, and you'll bring him over to, for example, a game like Heroic. It means you can have some really awesome fights. I mean, looking at something like the Age of Ultron from the Avengers movie, just watching as the Avengers are taking on, all these mooks of Ultron, with Ultron himself, being made of vibranium, him being the big bad, that's a really cool thing. And a lot of role-playing games where you're meant to become heroic or big, powerful beings, it's a good thing for you to use.
No, I have a feeling that by the time we get to 3.5 and then evolve past that, I've got a feeling that it's pretty much at that point going to become how I would normally run a session anyway, which is a hybrid of all of the best bits and pieces of all of the other editions. So I think we'll probably just skip right past 4th edition and 5th edition, use a chunk of 5th edition mechanics, but the core of 2nd edition and 3rd edition.
Yeah. That's fair.
No, it's your game, man. Do what you got to do.
Yeah.
Really, at the end of the day, right? It's your game. It's you're right, you're wrong. It's your choice. No one gets
it's just something to throw at the players and see how they, if they enjoy it. If they enjoy it, great. That's what we'll do. If they don't, then, I'll modify and do whatever.
Do you run anything other than fantasy, though?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Horror. I do a lot of horror.
Everyone does horror. Okay. Horror as in Cthulhu or horror as in like shit?
It's all over the map. I mean, there is Cthulhu. There are Cthulhu elements in it.
What game?
Do what?
What system?
I mean, it's mostly D&D, but I use those mechanics and put. It's not uncommon to see in my system. Of course, I would also lump like the Hellraiser Cenobites. I would lump that into a Cthulhu-esque type horror. But now, I mean, I've run the Alien RPG or Aliens RPG, but not the Free League one, but the West End Games one from not West End Games. What am I saying? The one from the 80s.
I don't know.
Which one from the 80s?
The Aliens RPG.
Oh, leading edge games.
Thank you, leading edge games. Yeah, that one. I've run Ghost Dog based on the movie. I've kind of steered away from. I mean, I tried to do Star Wars, the West End game Star Wars from years ago. I don't know. I couldn't feel it. I've run Mage, Vampire, Werewolf. So, I mean, I'm not exclusive to D&D, but I keep coming back to it because that's what the majority of players enjoy.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't run D&D as a general rule, so that makes me okay. I'm fine with that. I'm not a huge, massive. Oh, it must be D&D. It must be this. I'll play any. I'm running OSE right now, which is fun and all. But,
and that's one that I really need to pick that up, because when you were talking about it last week, I started kind of really looking it up, and it looks like it really captures the almost a bare bones essence of what ODD and AD&D was, and kind of mashes and combines them together. But what I like about it is it also seemed to be kind of versatile enough to run if you wanted to do science fiction, if you wanted to do something other than fantasy, just pure strict fantasy. It just seems like it was, I don't know, like I said, versatile enough to run other genres.
No, and I totally agree with you on that. Like, you're not going to get an argument. I think BX D&D is probably the best D&D for my money. Now, I'm not saying everyone needs to use it or anything like that, but feel better, Sarah? Okay, just making sure. But yeah, I mean, it's just for me. I think one of the issues that you might see with the D&D is the class level thing, right? So when you're trying to use it for other stuff, you suddenly have to take into consideration that factor at all times, right? So if I'm running horror, am I going to run modern horror using D&D? Well, why is there a fighter, a thief, a priest, a cleric, and a magic? It's weird. It's a disconnect for me. So I would want to use a game that's more suited to a modern situation. Now, I'm not saying it's wrong to do so, but people have been fighting this battle for decades now, trying to figure out ways to use D&D for other things than fantasy. It doesn't always work well, sadly.
If I may, on the topic of classes and the likes, I mean, a strong bit of feedback that I'm getting from the players that are playing Witcher is that they are loving a classless system. The fact that you've got more professions, but they have the ability of saying, right, we get XP that we reinvest into our characters. We don't feel that we are pigeonholed into certain things. I mean, yes, our characters have a profession that's specifically for us, but we can still branch in and say, right, I want to train and become good at this, so that you're not restricted by what your little box says. Your profession is more of a benefit for you, the player, so that you have a way for you to be unique to the group, and you bring unique set of skills. And
yeah,
it's also, and that's I'm finding that some of my players just turn around saying like they like that over what D&D has, because again, D&D being, it's all squares, circles, and triangles. Everything's predefined for you. All the way down to your niche and what you're expected to do in the group. So
yeah,
the games that are flexible for the players to define themselves is definitely something that I think that I am finding a higher appeal for. I mean, even the system that you are developing for Final Age Bear, I think that's going to be having a very big selling point for some of my groups of players, because the concept of them being more oriented towards skills rather than having, you know, set classes, set definitions, set progression is more appealing to them. And with the magic, as you've explained several times, is more based around probability, as in how probable is something to happen, versus, you know, what the players want to do. It gives creativity.
Yeah. That's the benefit of BRP, though. That's what BRP brings to the table, right? Basic role playing brings this sort of like, well, what are you going to do? You know, that's why one of the things that annoys me is whenever I see like a Call of Cthulhu Investigators guide, it's like, here's your template, and it's for people who can't think. You know, well, I'm going to be the socialite. Well, that's a class now. You're just making a class out of your fucking thing. Why not think? You know, who is this person that lives in this world? Well, they're a socialite. Is that all they are? Go ahead, sir.
I think from 5th edition onwards, they started adding that type of shit to Shadowrun as well.
Well,
where, like, they'll give
you can
you
only put so much shit into shit before it just becomes more shit, right? But anyway, go ahead. Tell me all about your Shadowrun.
No, like, because, you know, like BRP, it was like a very openly designed how you created your character. But I mean, I don't think I got any of the 4th edition books, but I was able to collect everything from 5th edition. And in that, like, they gave you templates to create your character off of these like specific archetypes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no.
But this is the thing. It's the laziness of D&D infecting every other game, right?
Yeah.
The more people play D&D, they come to, well, I want to be like a fighter. Okay, we'll just grab a couple of combat skills. What? Here's a template for a mercenary. Just put that on your character sheet. Okay. You know what I mean? And that's my biggest problem with it, is that D&D is really good for what D&D does, but it's not good for other stuff. And people keep trying to shoehorn those ideas into other games, and I think they ruin them.
I feel like it's that scene from the first Men in Black movie when Kay's talking about the universal translator, because it picks up thoughts and translates them. I feel like that's what D&D is. Oh, that's what human thought is to the rest of the galaxy. It's an infectious disease that really you shouldn't have interacting with everything else. That's D&D. It's just making everything else worse.
I know it is not designed for everything, as I used to believe.
Are you saying that we shouldn't be playing Mass Effect with D&D 5e, or Star Wars with D&D 5e, or Call of Cthulhu with D&D 5e, or
BattleTech with D&D 5e, or
Seraphis, I've already tried to get into a Mass Effect D20 game, and I came in with a Volo character being an economist, being like, I'm here to help the the ghost character. I was like, why? What are you here for? I will follow the numbers. It's like, what do you do? It's like, I'm your accountant. We don't need this. We're funded by the world government. Someone has to do the paperwork for you. It's like, we'll let him on. Jesus, why is he here? It confused. Yeah, no, it did not go well. I figured you'd at least appreciate that. Just me showing up with like a completely useless character, just like, here you are.
Okay, if I ever decide to adapt a Fantasy Age game for Mass Effect purposes, considering it was already adapted for Dragon Age, I will bring you on so you can play your corporate Volus accountant.
Yeah, I will be very happy. You have no idea how excited this makes me.
I'm sorry. Everything you just said just sounded like the best, funniest thing in the world. Like the only way you could like be doing better is if you also had biotic powers, but you were very cost effective with how you kept using them.
Even better. Just I know. I think it's like the second or it's the second game where there's a drug that gives you bionic powers. Just make the character. He's very good at this, but he snorts lines of this drug like a cocaine addict.
Yeah, the dust. Yeah,
He's like just middle of a fight. It's like, all right, guys, I'm gonna help you. But listen, you're talking to the same player who made an insurance character, who had an obsession with the occult, so that he would go to places to verify that they were occult, so he could buy them and sell them on to other people who liked the occult. That was my entire character point. I even told the keepers, like, my character is the reason why, like, I hire all of these people to come with me on this personal project. It's like, because I'm rich, I can just hire them. This is just fun for me. It was like, your character's fucking nuts. It's like, no, I've cornered the market. You don't understand my reasoning here. So it's like, so you're hiring a World War II veteran who is now a deranged detective. You're hiring this person, and you've got connection to this other person. It's like, so you're just the centerpiece that brings them all together. It's like, exactly. You just tell me where we need to go. I will bring them by hook, by crook, by blackmail, or by payment. Again, these are the sort of characters that I'm coming up with these days as a player. I was like, that's probably why I'm not a good player. It's either that or it's the other end of the spectrum where I've just like gone through the math and been like, my character's really good at this thing. It's like, what can he do this? Oh no, he's terrible at that. Can he talk? No. Can he look? No. Can he walk up a flight of stairs? No. What can you do? I can cast Fireball at level 1. Okay, get the fuck out of here. How did you do this? Biological Geneva Convention breaking rules. Sorry, Brian. I'm sure this.
He's doing his pause spacing. It's all right. We're having lots of fun though.
Okay.
So now I have an idea.
What's that?
Sax used to play in a heroic game where he plays that accounting guy, and when the bad guy villain shows up and he's like, you will face my minions, and all the goons come in, it's like, wait. What's your 401k like? How much you get paid right now? I mean, really, because look, here's the contract I've drawn up. Compared to what he's paying you, I think you should come work for me. Yeah, no, does it include dental? You know? Yes.
I have made a superhero like that using the picture of Justin Trudeau with the tagline of "the budget will balance itself." And the whole concept is that he was a duplicator, and the idea being that he was the workaholic of the team. Like, he would be building all the medial stuff. Like, you wouldn't have like S.H.I.E.L.D., like all these other people. It would just be him everywhere. It's like, we have the greatest savings ever. All the donations and the backings we're getting from the government, absolutely funded, because we only have to pay one guy's salary.
Okay, I've got a character idea for a heroic game. However, I know that it's extremely niche, and Bear would probably murder me.
Get it off your chest. I don't know what leash means, but that's fine.
Okay, have you ever heard of someone called Harold Holt?
No.
Okay. And I think Saxius is immediately look up what he's famous for.
Swear to God, if I see gay porn, you're a dead man. Well, I will come to Australia to fuck with you. Oh, Goldman Sachs. Okay, what about him?
I'm just reading.
I just have his LinkedIn profile. Who is this guy?
No, former Prime Minister of Australia.
Oh, so you want Australian Prime Minister go to Harold Hope. There's so many Harold Hopes. First World War nominal role Harold Hope Beamish. Holt. I put Hope. Sorry. Australian President Larry served as the 17th Prime Minister of Australia from 66 until his disappearance and presumed death in 67. Held the office as leader of the Liberal Party of Australia and held various ministerial positions. He was born in Sydney.
So he went for a swim and he never came.
In December 67, Holt disappeared while swimming in rough conditions at Cheviot Beach, Victoria. He was presumed dead, although his body was never recovered. His disappearance spawned a number of conspiracy theories. Holt was the third Australian Prime Minister to die in office. He was succeeded by Country Party leader John McEwen, and then John Ford's death was commemorated in other ways, among them signing the Harold Holt Memorial Swimming Centre in Melbourne. I'd like that they opened up a swimming center. Yeah, I just had my kid, and he had the lessons for the Harold Holt Memorial Swimming Center in Melbourne. Never came home. Anyone who takes that class mysteriously vanishes in the pool, Wow. So how is that? How does that become a heroic character, sir?
So basically, he's like Aquaman style, where he's got water-based powers. So a hydromancer type character, except that whenever he goes into the water, he just disappears.
So he's basically like translucent when he goes into it. He becomes invisible.
Maybe, who knows?
Until this day, even the conspiracy theorists that haven't figured it out, and he won't tell. Every interview is like, how does this work? It just does. I mean, do you know how it works? Yes. Can you explain it? No. I mean, okay, that's fine. Service, we'll need to get you into a game. I can't promise it'll be my game because I'm quite land-based at the moment, unless you want to be swimming in the sewers. Okay, funnily enough,
absolutely have him in your game because you'll make him pay.
On a complete side thing, Bear, I do need to ask: is there like a stone kingdom beneath Capital City? After I read Bedrock, what is going on? What is going on in the Capital City? Like,
Bedrock, the Mantle of Justice.
Yeah,
very Silver Age, very late Golden Age, early Silver Age character.
Yeah, just read these backstories. Like, there's a rock kingdom beneath Capital City.
There's a subterranean realm somewhere beneath the world. Well, if you look at the map of America, caves. Why not?
Sure. I mean, I was just reading. It's like, I'm sorry. Like, am I now finding that there is? I mean, all I'm thinking of now is like the mole man from the Atlantis movie. So I'm like, I have discovered it. I have found them. They are real. The rock people are real. It's like, that's nice. Now here's a nice, clean white jacket for you. Come with us. No, you don't understand.
So 2 things I can't stand as lazy writing is comic books where characters go, yeah, but Thor's not really a god. No, of course. Why would he be a god given all the shit that's happened in the Marvel Universe over the last 60 years of publishing? People would absolutely believe anything you said to them if you lived in the Marvel or the DC universe, you would believe anything. But I've seen writers in the modern age try and write stories where someone says they saw a UFO and people make fun of them for it. It's like, really? Your biggest hero comes from another planet. What the fuck are you talking about? Like, what? Shut up. That's number 1. Number 2 is in Star Trek when something weird happens and the captain tells everybody and the crew goes, well, we should check you for mental health and perhaps you're stressed, Captain. No, at this point in time, what? Your carrot told you that the universe is going to implode if we don't go to Sigma Alpha 5? All right, set course for Sigma Alpha 5, Captain. We're with you because who fucking knows? That carrot could be an omnipotent being. Let's go. You know what I mean? Like, it's so fucking lazy, this type of writing.
It wouldn't be the first time Q did something like that.
Sorry, what?
It wouldn't be the first time Q did something like that.
Yeah, exactly. But this is why I love Farscape. There is an episode of Farscape where they wind up on a planet and they find out that the Hynerians, Rigel, the little evil fucking administrative autocrat, right? They find out that the Hynerians had been here and there was a palm print for a Hynerian hand and all that. And then Rigel just goes, as they're now going, to Rigel because he's the return god from the skies, he just goes, bring me the sacred text. And they're like, yes, yes, yes. And fucking John looks and goes, how'd you know there was a sacred text? He just goes, there's always a sacred text. It's like that is a person living in that universe and acting like someone who lives in that universe. Now, Farscape got lucky because they had John Crichton as the audience surrogate, right? We had to see the world through John's eyes, so as a result, he could be, what the fuck's going on? None of this makes sense, but everybody else got to live in that universe, right?
Right.
Comics that have established histories, Invincible does this very well. No one doubts shit in Invincible because they've seen enough of their cities get land-basted, enough people get ripped in half by space aliens. They're like, yep, sure, why not? Of course, absolutely. Star Trek has that problem as well, which is where it's lazy writing where they try and build mystery through denial. And that works if the person's from 2025 suddenly in that universe, the denial makes sense. But if you've lived in that fucking universe, no, man, you believe this shit. You know what I mean? Yeah. What? This is a drug that can turn women into beautiful women? Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Where do I get my prescription for my wife? That's how it would be. People would not be questioning everything as much as they do. And that's stupid. It boils down to two things. One you guys, I'm sure you've all heard me rant about it on my channel enough, is small universe syndrome, where they connect everything to everything. Star Wars is the guiltiest of this. Like everything connects to everything. Everything's tied to everything. I hate that. But two, it's stupid audience syndrome. The idea that the audience is dumb, so we're going to have everyone in our world be dumb, so that the audience doesn't feel like they can, they know what's going on and they can connect and understand. But if you look at some of the best sci-fi, or even horror, or even fantasy, they never explain shit to you. Shit just happens, and everybody deals with it. And they don't have to go into a Twin Peaks. The owls are not what they seem. Never fucking explained to us, but it was a big point. You know what I mean?
No, but the best part about that is when David Lynch was tasked with, well, so can you answer what this is? Well, what does it mean to you?
Yes.
Then that's what it is. I mean, that's why I have these. That's what it means to me. Is that
the Black Lodge or something? What is that ring?
It's the owl ring from Twin Peaks.
It's the owl ring. I can't see it on screen. It's very, very blurry.
Yeah, sorry.
That's okay.
But yeah, I mean, that is, I mean, talking about David Lynch, I mean, pretty much any of his stuff, I have a lot of respect for the stories that he tells, or told at this point. Twin Peaks was great, because it did leave a lot of mystery and it made you talk and ask questions. And I loved the answer that he gave is like I just said, I mean, it's whatever it means to you. I'm okay with you running with that theory because that's what it is. And that gave, to use the term we used earlier, that gave viewer agency credibility.
Yeah, no, well, let's just call it credibility. It gave viewer credibility. Yep. It presumed the audience was capable of thinking for themselves. And that's something that's very, very fucking important. Right? It's very important. The audience needs to be able to think for themselves. And it's the same thing in a role-playing game. The characters in role-playing games, you will never have a scene where something weird happens in the game, the player tells the other characters what happened, and they go, well, you're full of shit. No, they immediately go, all right, cool, circle the wagons, get our swords, let's do our thing. You know what I mean? Like, the buy-in is much higher. I don't like cheap mystery. And, I mean, I don't like mystery to begin with, but I don't like cheap ones. If you're going to do a mystery, do a good one. You know what I mean? And Twin Peaks is a perfect example. I was saying this on DM James' channel last night. Twin Peaks was the Game of Thrones for its time.
Yeah.
Everybody watched it. Everybody had theories. I remember the Toshiba building here in Montreal had this digital sign right beside the highway. You'd see the Toshiba building. They had their big billboard on top and it had a digital ticker on it. And for like a week, it said in French, "Who killed Laura Palmer?" For a
Right.
week, like randomly. And I had not seen Twin Peaks. I'm like, what the fuck is what? What the fuck? My friend's like, oh, it's this show. I'm like, what is the show? It's Twin Peaks. Oh, okay, I'll watch it. Holy fuck, this is good. And everybody was talking about it. But it never treated you like you were stupid.
Right.
It never treated you like you were infantile intellect. It went, here's some weird shit. Good luck. Does that bitch talk to a log? Yes, she does. Does the log talk back to her? She seems to think so. And we're done. You know?
And what
Season
was
one
cool
and
about it
season
is,
three.
yeah, and what was really cool about it is it promoted theory, fan theory.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what I mean is it got people talking about it. And like you said, I mean, we had to wait 25 fucking years for a season 3. And
But
now we
season
have
two
to
was
wait.
awful.
Well, I mean, there were parts of it that were good. But
Yes, but you can
yes,
feel
I
the
agree with
studio
you.
interference, and that's the problem. Season 2 suffers from the network saying, do this, do this, do
Correct.
this, do this.
Correct.
So it's not as good as season 1. Season
Right.
3 comes 25 years later, and he does whatever the fuck he wants.
And it was brilliant. Yeah. And now we all have to die to see season 4.
Yeah, we have to join him in the afterlife now.
And then he'll just simply say, well, what do you think happens in season 4?
Yeah.
Then that's what happened.
There you go. You lynch, burn.
Yeah, once you get to the afterlife and you go up to him, you enter into the red room, and it's just you and him in the red room.
Being big. What the fuck? I don't want to go to the red room, man. That was a head trip.
Yeah, I
I'm gonna
may
say
not have
it's a
seen
good
it,
point.
but I know the references. Go Sex?
If I ever walk into a red room and I see a giant and a midget, they're speaking backwards and walking weird, I'm like, I'm out. I'm fucking out. Goodbye. I'm out. The only other option is go to hell. Light me on fire, motherfucker. I'm afraid the washrooms do not work. It is eternal damnation without. You guys ever saw that? Rowan Atkinson, the devil welcoming everyone to hell?
Ah, yep.
Oh, it's fucking brilliant, man. Fawn is it gamblers, blah 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 blah, adulterers. My goodness, there's a lot of it. Like it's just like it's the fucking best, man. You would like Saxius. This is a comedy that you would appreciate.
Wait, is this Rowan Atkinson being the devil?
Yeah.
Was that what you said? Yeah, that one I've seen. That's a good one.
Is it Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Mormons over there? I'm afraid the Jews were right. Just love that piece, man.
The lawyers are expected as usual. I can't remember the exact saying, but yeah.
Who's that from?
Brian.
Oh, he doesn't have a name, so it's just him being weird again. Okay, Brian, love to see you. I actually got to go too because I got a game starting in 2 hours, so I got to start an hour and a half. So,
Oh, what is the game that you've got running?
that's my home game. The boys are coming over. We're playing Hero. Yeah, there he goes. That's busted.
What do you expect?
With this crowd, if I'm not bleeding by the end, it was a win.
No, remember, you want to go down the arm, not across.
It's down the road, not across the street. Yeah. And on that note, I'm gonna go. Leave you two alone.
All right.
Well, now that we've driven everyone off, hi.
Hi.
Oh, but yes, that Volus character sounded absolutely amazing.
It's just like, I was like, well, what's your point of being here? Well, I'm taking care of all the accountancy for it, but we're bank, we're specters. We have an unlimited resource, yeah, but it still has to be accounted for. So what do you mean it has to be accounted for? Have you never seen how government works?
First of all, have have they played the first Mass Effect game? You do not have unlimited funds.
Well, no, that's true. But it's the whole thing of like, oh, we're being backed by all these like mega things and the Citadel. And so it's like, yeah, that's great. You do realize you still have to report back your spendings. Like, you're not escaping bureaucracy. You just don't have to see it because you're the Spectre. You've got underlings who does that. That's why you've got like the XO and a bunch of others who are doing that. And so that's why, like, I think it's in the third game, you get like a psychiatrist on your ship.
Yes.
So they should be like, I'm here to make sure that the crew's stress levels are managed. It's like, what do you mean that they're managed? Do you know what you actually do? Like, have you considered the insane stuff that you've just gone through?
Yeah, have you considered that, Commander Shepard, if I may call you that, have you considered that you have attempted to tell everybody that there's giant machine dreadnoughts coming to wipe us all out? Then you were killed, you were dead, then you were brought back to life, then it turns out you were right, and now you're trying to fight and win a war that no civilization in God knows how many of these cycles has actually won. Have you considered that? You might be a little bit stressed.
Yeah. It's just like, there's a lot of things to progress here. And worst of all, you've also got to deal with a journalist who doesn't want to give you the best of limelight. It's like, because you can end up like punching one of them.
Oh, yeah. I've done a couple of playthroughs where, my answering to what's her name?
What, the journalist?
Yeah, Jelani?
I think so.
Something like that. Where I've just answered all her questions by punching her. So
Yeah. El Jelani, or Khalisa El Jelani. That's the one.
Yeah. I've also done some ones where I've been like nice to her as well, and
Yeah.
it can be good, but it very much comes off as
it's you're standing there basically like reading pre-approved messages kind of thing. So yeah, it's like being a politician at that stage. But I know that there is a fan-made D20 system for Mass Effect out there where they go like the full 9 yards of like any conceivable alien race you can play as, with a number of benefits and the likes, which is just hilarious. You can play as the Batarians and some of the others. It's like, why would you?
Yeah, I don't get it.
No, that's fair enough. But it's, again, it was fun. But I just showed up to this one, or applied for it. I was like, here's my character. It's like, the game master's like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm like, it's all right. I'll find things for me to do. You just have to facilitate. It's like, I don't know how to do this. So no, have something that seems to be a little bit more like from the video games. Like, all right, fine. I was like, I didn't get in, so that was all right. It was just funny to like, everyone's got like, oh, I'm this commando, I am, I'm this, I'm an Asarian, I've got all of this, and then you've just got me being this stunk little Volos who being like, asthma attack, drug abuse, and an obsession with numbers, being like, these are the specters that will take you down, an awarded, commander, and Asari, bionic, superpower, a this and a that, and then their accountants.
Also, that not being part of Mass Effect, I'm sorry. Once again, they need to go back to Mass Effect 1 and actually see what that shit was actually was.
Yeah.
Yes, all that shit was in there. Like, the diplomacy stuff was in there.
Oh, it was huge.
Yeah.
It was massive, but the diplomacy stuff was all the way through. I mean, taking again the Mass Effect, the Commander Shepard being brought in, and it being a unified job between the Taurians and a bunch of the other races to create, the N7 ship. It was a sign of a diplomatic alliance between Earth that was considered to be a backwater civilization compared to everyone else. It was them trying to make a name for themselves, because we know what humans are like. We're like, wait, you're excluding us from this very interesting UN power? No, we will be on the Security Council. It's like, but we've already established it. We're not accepting new members. We will be in there. It's like, what do we have to do this? I don't know. It's like, can you do something really fantastic? Great. Find the most unhinged person. Here we go. Throw them in there. It's just like, what have you done? It's like humanity. It was like, be our allies or else.
Oh my god! I will say that game did a good job at the first one did a good job at introducing the universe to you through
Yes.
its side missions and stuff.
Yes. It was very good, and you then had to like be immersed into the the various cultures. You got introduced to them, like when you were introduced to Liana,
Liara.
Liara. There we go. When you were introduced to Liara, and you got to learn about the Asari. When you met with Garrus and all the Taurians, and you learned how that was. When you met Rex, and how the Krogans are behaving, and you're just like, awesome. Like all the side characters are coming. The more you interact with them, the more you learn. And then you go through some of the side missions, even the main missions, depending on who you have along, they will show up and be like, oh no, this is actually a major thing for me and my species because X, Y, and Z. Like Rex, like many other Krogans, because of the genophage, he's like, no, if we can have return to our normal childbirth rates, that's a major thing. It's huge. And you're like, oh, you're starting to sort of understand, like, oh, like this is actually quite bad, and you can see why they're like, no, we need to get this cured because they are desperate. It's like a civilization thing of like, we are desperate for this because they know that they're at the brink of extinction if something is not done. That is a terrifying thing to be in.
Yeah, absolutely. Although I do like that Rex was always of the opinion that if the genophage was cured, their people needed to be like culturally and mentally uplifted as well, because
Yes.
their warring ways weren't going to fly if they just kept doing what they were doing.
But the entire speaking specifically of the Krogans, they were uplifted by I believe it was the Solarians.
Yes.
By just giving them because the plan was, it was backwater at the time, but the Solarians basically came there and said, okay, we've got the Arachnes, which is ravaging all over. We need a more vicious, warlike creature to counter them because our current military force just can't deal with the numbers. And the Krogan, with their birth rates and their warmongering, was perfect. So uplifting them technologically and just going run, fights was a brilliant tactic until it then turned around. They went, well, how you couldn't stop them, we could, which means according to our culture, we should now rule. I was like, shit. That's how we then learned that the Solarians and countered that by, aside from my lovely little nuclear war, the genophage. But it's right. Again, Rex was very good at, like, surprisingly progressive for someone of his of his culture. Where like, no, like the war culture breeds strength, but we need to understand that the wider universe doesn't accept it. So there needs to be social changes and political changes as well for them to be able to like come to diplomatic meetings. And you see that being affected because if Rex dies in the first game, you see it in the second game when you have to go back to Chonka. And in the third game, because it's his uncle, he's his brother that's taken over, the Krogans are going to become a problem, and you know it.
Oh, yeah. Because, Rex's unique position as a mercenary following the Rachni Wars, having been that, 800-year-old battle master of countless battles, of countless mercenary jobs and all that. Yeah, he was distinctly in a position where he could appreciate just, what his people's wants are, but also can see what the greater universe the greater galaxy sees how the Krogan are. And
he has literally witnessed a history. As you said, from the War of the Arachni all the way up to present day, he's seen how the political change is done. And it's not just been over like a few, 20, 30 years. It's like, no, he's been through the human equivalent of like 10, no, more than 10, it's like 30 generations, and how a stigma has been earned by the Krogans because of how they are. I was like, well, that needs to be shaken. Again, it's really good.
I mean, if you think about it in human terms, he was at Richard the Lionheart's crusade and is still alive today. That's a person who's seen some shit.
Yeah, and it explains why he's as good as he is, because you don't live to that age. not in his profession, at least, unless you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
Or you become selective about what contracts you take on. I don't know. I liked it. It was the BioWare has done fantastic with some of these games. Again, Mass Effect, very deep lore, fantastic insights, the build up from the first to the second, and the expansions that they did. Cerberus was mentioned in the first game, and then you get to work with them. You see just like what kind of, you see it from their perspective, like, no, we're trying to save them, but their methods are just very morally gray. And at the end, you're like, they're too gray, borderline dark, so we can't really go down this route.
Yeah.
And the third then sees how everything's sort of falling apart.
Yeah.
With that, again, really good game. It's very one of the great storytelling games that I can think of, at least within my generation. And yours.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, I need to be wrapping this up because I've got a child on my lap. So
it was good.
Thank you for coming on, and
thank you for having me.
Man, this has been great. Quite honestly, I'm not going to lie. So I don't think I'll do my usual thing. I'll just say, Swazdala, everybody. I am Surface, the Down Under Space Pirate. I am joined by Saxius, the accounting DM. And have you got anything you want to shout out or anything?
No, my things are kind of like on hold at the moment. I'm not doing anything for YouTube, so I just show up and contribute where I can.
I am going back and forth on a script for a video that I think works, and then I reread it a few days later, and I'm like, I feel like that doesn't work, and then I start again, and it's just
you need to put a point. You need to put a point where you say stop, and then you do it, and then see how that turns out. You can always like change things as you feel it goes. Either way, don't want to keep you up. You've got things to do. You take care.
No worries.